I think one of them is going to be diversity. America is changing so much, and people are afraid of that word diversity. They're thinking, oh, that's something else. I don't want to deal with that. That's just affirmative action. But it's good public relations. I always joke with people and say, okay, how many of you do campaigns just to target white people? And people then laugh at me and say, that's a weird thing. I said, because all white people are alike, aren't they? And so you can do a campaign to target all white people in America. And they think it's just the funniest statement ever made. But on the other hand, people then will say, oh, well, we need a special practice to target black people as if it's a monolithic group. Or we'll target all Hispanics because, they represent all the same countries. Or really, we'll target Asians because they too all speak the same language. And as you know, those are all very hilarious statements as well. But people are afraid to look at different elements of diversity, not just along racial lines, on gender lines. People are afraid to talk about how the international implications of public relations are affecting domestic publics as well as international publics. People don't like to talk about people who are different than them. Looking at the gay, lesbian, transgendered communities, that's a very important public that needs to be looked at because they deserve to have communications because they're people too. But people are afraid to talk about that. People are afraid to begin to segment their publics along those lines, where sometimes it's very important to be segmented along different demographic lines. So we have to learn how to get over communicating against otherness and be comfortable with our otherness. But first, understanding who we are and how that influences our communication is so critical. But it takes time for people to reflect on who they are, and then what commonalities exist between different types of people, because there are commonalities, and then how do issues affect people differently depending upon what their background is. So I think diversity is one area that's going to need to be looked at from the practice of public relations, but also diversity within the profession of public relations, meaning who is actually becoming the professionals within the industry. We don't want to end up like the advertising industry, getting ready to have a class action lawsuit against that industry because of the inability of people to progress through the agency ranks. But public relations is nearly as bad as the advertising industry is. And so we need to be conscious of who are we promoting. Women have cracked the glass ceiling in public relations to some great extent, but if you look at Hispanics, Asian Americans, African Americans, they are so underrepresented within the public relations industry. And we need to do better recruiting, better mentoring, and so that people won't just come in the door as entry-level professionals, but can continue to grow within the industry and not be steered to other professions, but really stick with the public relations industry and become successful within it. So I definitely believe diversity is one of those major issues that need to be addressed. Another issue that I think really needs to be addressed within public relations and is going to continue to be a challenge is this whole social marketing, social media, the new media. Things are changing so rapidly, and how do we communicate with people? How do we control messages? How do we listen? Because there's so many messages out there now that it's not just understanding your publics by reading the daily paper, because you still have to monitor the print outlets. You still need to monitor the radio and the television outlets. But then how do you monitor the blogs? How do you monitor what's going on Twitter? How do you monitor what's happening in Facebook and Black Planet and Black America Web and all these other websites and things that exist out there? So that's going to continue to be a major challenge. And how do we position our companies so that we are respected within that space, but then also how do we listen to these publics that are communicating on that space so that we can help our organization succeed?